Hey there, Mega Brainiacs. It's good to see everybody again. Tonight we are doing a very cool interview with two very awesome comic book creators. I think one of them recently moved up to the area from the Bronx, but I think the other lives in the Bronx still. I could be wrong. But they just recently had a very successful Kickstarter for their comic book Kastor, which we supported on Kickstarter. So I can't wait to get the comics into the shop and get my copy so I can read it. But without further ado, I am going to introduce you to Uni Bowen.
Hello. How's it going?
Hi, Dixon. How's it going?
Going well. Thank you for that introduction.
Yeah, that was great. Well, I drink my juicy juice.
Oh, you have juicy juice?
When you have a kid.
I have a jar.
Look at this. Is this advertisement? Are we going to get sued now?
Either that or Juicy Juice is going to reach out and be like, hey, yeah, we want to throw a whole bunch of money at you to keep doing what you're doing.
Oh, those Juicy Juice made us so good at writing this comic.
So actually clear something up for me. Uni, you moved up here from the Bronx, right? But Monique, you're still in the Bronx?
No, I'm in New Rochelle currently.
Oh, you're in New Rochelle. Okay.
Yeah. Close enough.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like 10 minutes away from the Bronx.
You could walk.
So how long have the two of you known each other?
Since we were 10.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. But we don't need to tell our age.
No.
Okay.
We're good.
So how did the two of you meet? In school, I'm assuming?
Yeah, we met in middle school. We both went to MS 180 in the Bronx, Co-op City. It was a school for the arts. So it was when I think we both tried out for singing, and then we ended up in ballet class together where from then we were like stuck together.
Yeah.
Awesome. Very cool. So when you were kids, were you both into comics or?
I think I was because my father was. So we grew up with like Green Lantern and things like that. But then I went to like cards, like Marvel cards after a while. Yeah. Because you could read the bio and you're like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. Like it's things like that.
My thing was you've seen like the handbook of the Marvel Universe.
Okay.
That like before the cards got big, I was all about that because it was the same thing. You turn, it was the encyclopedia of heroes. So it's like, ooh, that's their real name. Oh my God, their first appearance.
And then you can connect them. And you're like, Cable, what? Son of who? Like it was one of those like awe moments. And then like I think it was Superman when I think in '94 Superman died.
Yep.
And I remember that. But at that time, holding that comic meant it didn't really mean much.
Yeah.
But I wish I kept the comic instead of lending it to a friend.
I have many copies at the shop. In case you
need. Well, that's good to know. Juice.
So wait, what about you, Monique? Were you not reading comics?
No, my first introduction was actually in 5th grade when one of the boys looked at me and was like, you remind me of Rogue. And I'm like, who the heck is Rogue? And then
class?
and showed me like an X-Men comic book. And I'm like, okay, I have to see how in this world I am like Rogue. So like from there, I started reading like X-Men, Archie comics. I think I had a hold of Sabrina, the dark version, not the TV version of the light fluffy, Sabrina. Yeah. And then as I got older, it was like comic books and then anime.
She's all anime. You can ask her about anything anime. She knows it. I don't know.
Oh, you would be my son's best friend. It's all he cares about now. Anime and manga.
Yes.
Yeah. So I've loved anime since like the early 90s. I mean, I guess technically the 80s with like Speed Racer and Gotcha Man or Battle of the Planets and everything. But like, I think the first real kind of modern anime that I watched was like Akira, Ninja Scroll, and like Vampire Hunter D.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy shit. Like, what just happened to my eyes?
What is this? The magic.
Yeah.
But there's so much because we didn't realize we were watching anime because Sailor Moon is an anime, right?
When we were in middle school.
Very big. Yeah. The first one that I've actually watched like as an adult was Attack on Titan. Now everyone talks about Attack on Titan.
I feel bad. I still haven't seen it. Like,
it's pretty good. And then one of my favorites is
ignore him, everyone.
Diego, every time I tell him that I haven't seen it yet, he's like, "Oh, Dad."
No, it's like okay. I'm about to get my thoughts together. It's like, anime has like a whole world, you know what I mean? Where things are like really realistic. And then, you have your playful one. So like my favorite playful one is like the Black Butler about like, say this this kid called Ciel, he sold his soul to the devil or the demon. And it's like at the end, the demon gets to get his soul type of thing. But the demon has to get him to be evil in order for his soul to taste better.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So, what is it? That reminds me of. I mean, it kind of also reminds me a little bit of Ghost Rider, but it does remind me of for a movie I've seen. I feel like I don't know. Pay attention to me. So you're hardcore into anime and manga now. So like, what are you reading these days, Uni?
Oh, Monique is. I haven't had a chance. Like, I think as well. Like having a kid, owning a business.
Yeah.
I'm also in a rock band, so it's like even like.
Oh, so you don't read? You haven't read in years?
I don't read. Like, you don't even know how to spell my name anymore. You're like, I don't even know how I did that. I did it.
Yeah.
I did it.
Yeah.
So it's like a while to like. We've been writing this for like 7 years. So it's just,
wow.
Yeah.
All right. So
sweat.
Actually, that's a perfect segue. So you guys created Kastor so the two of you wrote it, and Hudson Valley artist Michael Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
He's the guy that illustrated. So first, can you tell us who wants to tell us what the comic's about?
Uni sums it up better than me. I will go on and on and on.
All right. So Uni, what is Kastor about?
Kastor is about two ordinary women who decided to do a very extraordinary feat, which is fight demons, with no magic, with no superhuman powers, with nothing. And the whole concept behind that is because us as people all the time, oh, do you? Okay. Share that later. Us as humans, we go through life with difficulties, either trauma, childhood trauma, addiction, abuse, and everything else. But we always manage to find a way out of it. And we don't have superhuman powers. We don't fly. We can't run as fast as Flash. We can't, I don't know, teleport somewhere else when we don't want to be there. We just deal with it ourselves. So we wanted to show that through a comic book. So like the first scene is us. I remember asking my boss for a raise and he was just not happy. So I wrote him into the comic.
Yeah, I actually, let's see if I can pull that up. You guys have that scene on your Kickstarter page, don't you? Yes, you do. Hang on 1 second. Let me see if I can share the screen to show everybody. Yeah, and something really cool about that scene is that it's in Kingston. Like, yeah. It starts out. Here, wait, let's see. Share screen. Boom! There we go. So there it is. There's you asking for your raise. At dawn of the bed.
I was not happy. And so that's what I imagined, like the feeling of this guy just morphing, because he was like this nice little guy. He talked to the customers like, hey, do you need any help? And then me, it was just like, oh, what are you talking about, a raise? And I was like, oh, I'm going to write you into this comic and I'm going to destroy you in my comic. You know, I was like, because you can't do it in real life. But I think people go through this on a daily anyways. Like, it just shows, like, you know, you can stick up for yourself. You can stand up for yourself. And even if it feels like there's this monster attacking you, you could defeat it. You can get over it.
Cool. I like that. That's awesome. So 7 years ago, you started writing it.
Yeah, it started on a hike. So that time is when I didn't have a car. I was taking the train and the bus up to go see Uni in Middletown.
Okay.
And then we would go hiking. And it was like one of those hikes where whenever we go hiking, it's like a way for us to share ideas. We tell each other stories and stuff like that. And we were just on our ordinary hike, and Uni was just like, you know, what would happen if we could fight demons? And I'm like, no, once they know, we know that's like horrible. And it's like on this hike, we started like basically making up this story along the hike. And by the end, we're like, you know what? We should probably write this into a story.
Nice.
It was, you know, have you ever wanted to do anything in your life that you just didn't have the opportunity to do?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Would you do it if you could do it right now?
Well,
I put him on the spot.
that's a very loaded question. I mean, I can also say that I have done that before. In terms of making my own comic and also opening a comic book store. Those were two things that I really, really wanted to do, and they both happened at moments where I was like, it's now or never. So like, I just got to do it. And
Exactly.
yeah, so that's cool. So okay, so that's a good segue into another question I had was what was your writing process like? Like, what was that back and forth like?
Oh, very interesting. It was. Go ahead, Uni.
I would sit at the Big Bubble in Kingston, like doing my laundry. So we wrote it up a couple of times, but when I really, really started it was at the Big Bubble.
Okay.
I would sit there and I would just write, and I would look at people. I'm like, "Oh, are you
You're
up?"
a demon.
I'm gonna write you down. Like, it was one of those. But what would happen is what me and Monique do is we played this game where I write an ending that's impossible for her to get out of, and then she takes on the second half of it. So then I stop here and I'm like, you finish it.
That's cool.
It's me.
That's like that game that we used to do in school where it's like the teacher had a piece of paper and you start writing a story and then you pass it on to the next person. And like, that is awesome.
Yeah, it makes it wonderful. I hope when all of you get to see the
I'm not happy about it.
And I wrote a part where once Uni read it, she called me up as soon as she got it. She was like, what did you put me in? Like, what situation did you put me in? How do you expect me to get out of this? But this is great. And I'm like, well, it's your turn to figure it out. I don't know what to tell you.
That's also kind of, it's almost like D&D also. Like, you guys were each other's dungeon masters. And it's essentially like, okay, now you're trapped in this room. With
what happens, Paladin?
That's really cool. I like that.
Yeah, it works.
So it took you guys 7 years to get the script, and then how did you find Michael?
I actually went to school with Michael unknowingly. Went to school with him. So when I came up here from the Bronx, I was in my senior year. People, if you're watching this, do not move your child during their senior year of high school. especially upstate. You know, I'm from the Bronx. It was two different worlds.
Yeah.
So I went to school with him. Then he ended up working with my sister and her husband at the time at their studio because it's an animation studio.
Oh, cool. So wait, so he's a comic book illustrator and he's an animator?
Yes.
Oh, that is badass.
Yeah.
And he's fantastic. You know, he's having another, I believe, Kickstarter.
That he has going. Yeah.
But yeah, and I was like, oh, we went to the same school. Cool. Like, it just works. It just feel like everything worked this way. Like, you know, like it just fell into place. And he's so great to work with. It's almost like that's, I guess, your story about your illustrator and everything else for your comic. It just, when it clicks, it clicks. It's
because I remember the first page that he brought over to us, the first page of the Kickstarter, and when he showed to us, I couldn't speak. I was just like,
no words.
It was like,
yeah.
What, do you guys like it? Do you not like it? And I'm like, this was what was in my head. And you put it on paper. This is awesome. You know, like it's just it's interesting to see the three of us and our dynamic together is like Michael is calm, cool, collected.
It's one of the reasons why I love comic books so much is because it is this insanely collaborative effort. I mean, like today there's like a few less cogs in the machine, but like, you know, up until a few years ago, you needed, you know, a penciler, an inker, a colorist, a letterer, editor, and then there's all the people outside of that, like the editor in chief and all the other, you know, pieces of the puzzle that like made this like magical thing that like I just could not get enough of. And yeah, so for a lot of people don't realize, when we were backstage, we were talking about making comics. I made a comic back in 2011 called American Dark Age. And when it was the same thing, when the artist and I first kind of got together and we started to get like the character going, you know, it's like a few came out and I was like, oh, that's cool. And like, it's kind of where, like exactly where I wanted to go. And then I'd like kind of throw some feedback. And then there was just this one day that after like the two of us talking for so long, like she just threw all these drawings at me and I was like, holy shit. Like what just happened?
Great, and now it's on here.
Yeah. And there's like something so special about the relationship between like the writer and the artist. And you know, it's the X-Men, Chris Claremont and Ron Byrne. Like, I mean, I've heard a lot of stories. It wasn't always a pleasant partnership, but it was magic. Like what they did was freaking magical. So that's cool. It's really cool that like you not only found an artist that connected with your story, but also somebody that was already kind of connected to you.
Yeah.
That
was weird. I mean, it was supposed to happen, I feel.
Yeah.
In life, everything's supposed to happen the way it is.
So, so do you, like when you guys are writing, do you have, like I always have like comic book writers in my head that like as I'm writing, I'm almost writing to them like, oh my god, I loved when I read your comic book, blah blah blah, and now I want you to read mine. Like, and so like I have these like inspiring like writers in my head that I kind of keep with me as I'm creating. You have any like writers that you?
When I was a kid, I used to read. I shouldn't have been reading Tank Girl when I was a kid.
Oh no, you absolutely should have been reading Tank Girl.
Been reading.
Personally, I think every young girl should read Tank Girl.
Now looking back, I'm like, wait, like my mom didn't stop me, like, or maybe like
I didn't realize,
like the comical. So our comic has some like a lot of comical like aspects to it as well. Like it has that, but it has a seriousness to it as well.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that's our lives. It's hilarious. It's hilariously sad sometimes, like you have to laugh at your own misfortunes and misery at times. And I feel like Tank Girl was, and I was, a couple of months ago, I was doing a lot of Spawn. That like I really like that, like the detail and the darkness and everything else. So it's like we added some kawaii moments to this. You'll see it in the comic. So there's gonna be some anime in the comic itself, even though it has this tone to it. Because we also like the Spideyverse. We loved how there was so many different styles at times when it like shook up.
Oh yeah.
Like
oh my god.
Like
shake.
that, yeah.
Like that scene where he like when he first gets his powers and he's running through the city and like crazy. Yeah.
So we love that. So we're combining all these like fun things, but like, life is not always fun and smile.
Yeah, there's lots of different textures to it. So if you can somehow introduce that into your story, like, makes it more interesting.
Yeah, it does.
The whole Tank Girl, I used to like, it used to be comical to me, but maybe it wasn't comical at that age.
Okay, so there is some stuff in Tank Girl that's pretty inappropriate, but I feel like the spirit
to make it like, you're
the riot girl, Yeah.
I love that part.
So okay, so you guys have gotten your first issue successfully funded.
Yes, thank you, everyone.
Yeah, we thank everyone for. We didn't even think it was. We honestly didn't think it was going to happen.
Really? I mean, the moment I saw the Kickstarter, I was like, "This is badass!" Like,
really? Thank you. We were like, it's not going to even hit like $300. Like we were just like.
But the other cool thing is that like I'm not sure how like I stumbled on it. It was probably just me like going through Kickstarter or something, and it just popped up in my feed like regionally. But then when the Kickstarter was happening, like so many people I know that like, people I haven't spoken to in a while, like people in Ulster and Dutchess were like, oh my God, have you seen this awesome Kickstarter? I'm like, holy shit.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, like it was reaching a lot of people like around here. And I thought that was really cool.
Thank you, everyone.
That's very nice because I was having almost a nervous breakdown.
Oh yeah, we wake up in the middle of the night and look at our phones like it's
like she called me 1 o'clock in the morning. I thought something had happened.
Fundraising is stressful, like so stressful. So my question is to you: you've got the first issue out. Do you have a broad sense of how many issues this story is gonna take?
Yeah, because the story, is not going to end where the first issue ends. We hope to kind of take you on this journey of, Monique and Uni. So we're kind of looking at maybe like 4 issues and then a special that kind of tells you the behind the scene of how they actually got to the point that they're at.
Oh, cool.
So we have a lot, that we want. That one issue, we can't put everything, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Where we started at is basically you didn't see how we even got there. Like
like it starts where like
we're just
you're in it.
Yeah. Because honestly, the whole thing is we don't know how to fight. We wanted it to be as real as possible. We don't know how to fight, but we're getting better. So you see us at a stage that we're okay, not.
All right.
You know what I'm saying? So I don't know if you saw
you're just figuring out your powers.
Like how all this works, because even like the Uni and I talk about it, where on the cover of the comic book you see them kicking butt.
There's like
that's not us.
It's like no, that's what we picture ourselves in our heads to be doing. But
this is what we want to look like, but. You're not going to get that.
We're falling, we're getting hurt and everything, but that's where we want to end up.
Yeah,
Okay.
eventually we'll be the kick ass that we want to be, but now we're just like, I work at a department store, right?
Throwing chairs at people.
Like, I don't know if you saw a chair fighting thing, because we wanted it to be as realistic as possible to somebody actually fighting.
Yeah.
So I went through how many chairs?
A whole bunch of chairs. It was at night where we were meeting with Michael and he was showing us what he had, and we both were like, no, but that doesn't make sense. But you wouldn't be able to lift a chair like that, and the character is not that strong. And he's like, no, you're good, but the character could do it. And he was like, no, let me show you. And started like picking up all these chairs and like bringing them all over the place. It was hilarious. I'm saying, or if you could look at, be a fly on the wall during our meetings, you'll just be laughing hysterically.
That's cool though. I like that type of like minutia when it comes to storytelling, because that is the type of stuff when I'm reading something, it almost takes me out of it if it's something that I'm like, that would never happen. Like, so the fact that you think about like all those like kind of little details, I like that a lot.
Oh yeah.
You have to, because other people are thinking about it. Like even now, like say when, I love Emergency Awesome reviews on like all the Marvel stuff.
Yeah.
And like how you see them pick at everything, and as just a casual watcher, you're like, okay, this is awesome. And then when they're picking at you, like, oh, that's true. That wouldn't happen in real life. So it's like things that we're thinking about, okay, what would this look like if it was really happening? Because we want you to be engrossed into this world that we're creating.
Which is kind of, it's the tenet of the nerd. like what we do is we pour over every stupid detail of the things that we love because we love them.
No, I got a taste of that when I have my friend. She's like a Star Wars person, so it was like she would drag me every year because Star Wars always came on around her birthday. So she'll drag me to Star Wars.
Am I sensing you don't like
Star
Wars?
No, like.
But I like this movie about laser swords.
Yeah, like what is this? So I will watch like the little reviews to kind of like understand what's going on, and like, but that one happened in this, and the width of this, and this galaxy, and I'm like, oh my god, this is science. I didn't know science was involved.
Yeah, we don't want the science.
Oh my god!
Just do the fighting stuff.
Just show me the fighty stuff. That's okay. Oh wait. So what about Star Trek? Are you a Star Trek person?
I like all of them. I watch Star Wars, Star Trek. She converted me, my friend.
No Star Trek for you.
I know we have Trekkie fans out there. I'm sorry, but no.
No. I live in both camps.
Star Wars all day, but we're fighting.
I live in both camps. I'm sorry.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
We should burn the one that has the Trekkie on it.
The hater.
Love Star Trek.
Yeah.
Star Trek ascendancy right there.
You gotta zoom in.
So that's really cool. Like, okay, so you guys have a 4-issue plus like kind of annual plan for the story, and then do you have other stories that you're kind of bouncing around in your head that you're like, ooh, and we're gonna write this too? Or is that type of stuff like things that you don't want to like?
I'm a big horror movie kid. I grew up in the 80s, so I think you guys kind of know how old I am now. So I grew up during the era of like Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, Gremlins. I love Gizmo and everything else, and that was scary. That movie was scary.
That was something I loved about the 80s was like they would give you a kids movie and it was fucking terrifying.
At the end of Gremlins, it's like, so if you hear a creak or the power might go out, turn on all the lights. I'm like, what is this? It's during Christmas. This is horrible.
A lovely Christmas movie.
Yeah.
Whoa. Sorry. Sidebar. when my son was 9, I want to say like 8, maybe he was like 7 or 8. I was like, ooh, Gremlins. This is the perfect time to watch Gremlins with him and his friends were visiting from Arizona.
Nice. Uh-huh.
No, and it was like a couple of friends from school. And I'm like, all right, you guys, we're gonna watch Gremlins, and we're watching, and it's a little scary, but they love it. And then what I didn't realize or didn't remember was the insanely traumatic story that Phoebe Cates tells about her dad.
Oh yeah, that was not necessary at all.
Which the story ends with her saying, and that's when I learned that there was no such thing as Santa Claus. And I was like, oh, okay. And I distracted the kids from what just happened and like hoped that they didn't pick up on it.
Something like that.
I was like, did I just ruin Christmas for like all
Cheers.
4 of these
kids?
Yeah, great job.
Yeah, thanks.
Shame. For shame.
But yeah, to me, the 80s was like the golden age.
It was. I met Robert Englund when I was like 5 at a horror movie convention. I grew up very great.
That is awesome.
Like, it was really cool, like to see him, and like he signed my thing. Aw.
Oh, nice.
How did that go?
She loved it.
Yeah, right. The best part is when the best part of Gremlins is when that lady went through that chair when she had that stair.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry.
So are you guys saying that you're gonna like kind of throw into the horror ring some more with your comic?
Yeah, it's like we created Studios Inc., where basically it's everything creative that we think of that's going to fall underneath it. So it's comic books, short films that we're hoping to do. We're hoping to do a podcast. Like we wanted to create a platform that we could share our creative sides
and other people's things as well, because people don't. It's trial and error. We could stop you from doing these errors. The trials come to us because we can showcase your things there. So horror has always been in my life. It's in my kid's life. I feel bad because he's like watching Sonic XZ and stuff like that at 4, and I feel horrible, but I always like show him things like, this isn't real, this is.
I think kids are more kids are savvier and kind of more resilient than we give them credit for a lot of times. Like when I was a kid, I have 3 older sisters, and every week, our mom would take us to the library, which, like one of the best things in the world. Like, we'd go to the library, they had a record section, they had an awesome kids section. Most of the time, I would always ask to take out any of the Edward Gorey books.
Yes.
And because my sister used to watch, what was it? Theater Mystery.
Yes.
And I loved the intro to that with like all the creepy, like, yeah. So that was when they were like, oh, well, that's this. And I immediately fell in love with like Edward Gorey and the Addams Family and everything just creepy and weird.
But I'll make sure
I think somebody traumatized their child with Gremlins.
My niece swears this is.
Good job.
But those are memories. Those are memories.
Yeah,
but like with kids being resilient, I think that sometimes they don't even understand in detail what's happening. Because I remember my sister and I used to love watching the Golden Girls when we were like 8 years old.
Yeah.
And now when I'm watching, I'm like, ew, there were.
Blanche is a dirty old lady. Yeah. It's so weird, the stuff that we were like allowed to consume when we were kids, and now like I've got 3 children, and like half of it, I'm like, oh, I
can't do this. I can't
watch that.
Somebody recently said, has Fox watched Thriller yet? I'm scared to show my kids Thriller. And I'm like,
the first like 5 minutes of Thriller is terrifying.
With the zombie.
Like, well, not the zombies. When Michael turns into that werewolf, and he's like,
and his face is changing.
Yeah, that was terrifying. That was what's his name? Jonathan Landis was the one that directed that, I think.
It's so funny because remember how makeup artists used to do things? I'm sorry, CGI and everything else. I still love like
practical effects.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
because it looks real. Remember Critters? Those
love Critters.
You remember that? Like that looked real to me.
Well, like, I feel like the thing that people miss with CGI is like you shouldn't use it for the whole thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I think Marvel a lot of times now is like they put like the costumes on everybody and then they use CGI to make it look better instead of just like Green Lanterning their costumes on their bodies. You know, it doesn't look right. So like just use it as, you know, spice, not the whole meal.
Salt bake.
A little spice. Yeah. So
yeah, it was silly.
Right. Wait, I lost my train of thought of where I was.
Okay, welcome to my world.
Yeah.
All the time.
See, this is the other thing. I had told you. So, for those that don't know, Colin Felice, my amazing podcasting partner, was supposed to join me tonight, and he's the one that's always like,
"Get me back where you need to be."
Yeah, I get to just, you know, talk and be in the cloud. Yeah.
See, Monique is the one that usually keeps me in control. I'm the one that's like, I'm floating and I have all these ideas.
Yeah. So, and then at the shop, it's Brian who is the one that does that. He's the one that like is constantly being like, and I'm like, but all this stuff, do all this.
I tell Monique, I'm like, so what if we did this? And she's like, okay. She takes the idea and then she like actually makes a plan for it.
Yep.
Right?
No, it's true. Especially we used to do baby showers. Like her and I used to event planning for baby showers and everything, and we'll go and having all these ideas. And like, we have no money.
We literally cannot do that.
I'm like, why can't we have the elephant come out of a balloon?
All right. So slightly off topic.
It's okay.
I also wanted to, like, as nerds, so as nerds and as Black nerds,
yes.
Did you or are you going to watch the Falcon? Did you watch Falcon and the Winter Soldier?
You did.
You did? What'd you think?
I liked it.
Yeah?
Yeah,
right.
I liked it.
Well, so wait, you didn't watch it, Uni? So we can't really.
I'll see myself out of this.
No, it's okay. That's okay. I figured it would be, since it just ended, it would be like a good little touch point, but we don't have to talk about that. But I do have another slightly off topic question for you both. And that is, what are each of your top 3 music albums that you have listened to in the past year?
I think I love Earth, Wind, and Fire. I've always been Earth, Wind, and Fire kid. Especially growing up, you got to go to the barbecues. You have to, you know, listen to the good music.
All right. So you've been listening to Earth, Wind, and Fire.
I've been listening to another band called Cave Town, and they're the the singer-songwriter. He lives in England, and I just really like the way that he writes. It's like experiences and
all right. Cave Town?
What was that?
Cave Town?
Cave Town. It's more of like that indie pop. I mean, things like that. And the other bands that I listen to a lot. I really do love Foo Fighters, only because
we were just talking about the Foo Fighters and how amazing. Yeah, Brian and I were just talking about the Foo Fighters the other day.
I love the Foo Fighters. I think coming from, from back when I was young, and then they still are able to bring themselves out of it. It's almost like, they transitioned from like, and they still stay the same. They changed up some things, but they still stayed the same. So I just love the Foo Fighters. I'm like, great.
I think I was likening Dave Grohl is the Paul McCartney to Kurt Cobain's John Lennon.
That's true. Yes, I would say
Paul McCartney is an amazing just songwriter and musician, but it's pop music, and it's like Dave Grohl is very tight and amazing rock songwriter and musician. It's just it's always just well crafted.
Oh yeah.
Whereas Kurt Cobain was a little bit messier, but it was the messier.
But that was him. That was his. Yeah. That was his thing, and he was able to do his thing, and people accepted him for that. Dave Grohl is he just, I don't know, he transcends everything from the early 90s to whatever.
I love the Foo Fighters, and so we were talking about a lot of the
my first concert was at the Chance, and I think I got hit in the head with a water bottle. So I hope, Aaron, you had a greater time than I did.
Oh, speaking of the folks that are in the chat, if anybody has any questions for Uni or Monique about their comic book or about just what they do and what they're doing, drop it in the chat, and we will throw that up here and have them answer your questions. So Monique, your top 3 musical choices for the past year.
Well, I have a collective. So since we've been writing, Kastor kind of refining it, I've been listening to a lot of his. Halsey.
Who? Oh, Halsey?
Halsey, yeah. I always say her name wrong.
Wait, is it Halsey or?
No, I think
so I'm not that.
Halsey.
I just know the pronunciation from how I heard a kid say it at my school.
They're probably right.
They're probably right.
They know everything. So
I heard some kids say the name Halsey, and I was like, "What's a Halsey?" And then I Googled it, and I saw who. Yeah, so but I still don't. Yeah, I'm so fucking old. Right.
So I listen to a lot of her because a lot of her music is almost like she's writing a story, so it gets me into the fighting mode.
Yeah.
Things about demons and stuff like that.
Oh, cool.
When I'm in my sad mood, Evanescence. I don't know if you remember Evanescence.
I remember Evanescence.
Yeah, and then do not judge me.
Okay? Oh, I'm gonna judge.
Lately, I've been listening to a lot of Cardi B and doing all
right. I never judge anybody's musical taste, because if you dug into my Spotify at all,
oh yeah, what do you like? Let's ask you this question. Top 3 that you've been. We all want to know. Go ahead.
I go. It's always my mood, and it just goes across.
But see, this is you are taking the easy way out. We want to know. So, Juice wants to know.
Okay, so the other day when I was doing the dishes, I was listening to the Xanadu soundtrack because it is one of the greatest soundtracks ever made. Because you got Olivia Newton-John, who I had a huge crush on as a kid.
Oh, of course.
But side B, you've got Jeff Lynne and ELO doing a all the best shit. It was, I love that soundtrack. But at the same time, I will also, listen to, I don't know, a ton of Prince or, I also love Jethro Tull, and I don't know. I haven't been listening to a lot of new stuff because I feel like I'm not in a position where I'm hearing a lot of new stuff. Usually the way I would get new music is like years ago when I was commuting, I would be listening to like random radio stations and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The city, or just like I'd be in different situations where I'd be like, oh wow, what is that song? And I don't, like now I'm just always home with babies and a teenager, and or I'm at the shop where we try to play palatable music for our customers.
For everyone.
Yeah. So yeah, I've had like this drought of like knowing anything. I think the last new album,
it makes us feel old. Yeah.
Like the last new album that I found organically that I still adore it is Diane Coffey. It's the stage name of this guy. I don't know what his real name is, but just look up Diane Coffey, and the album is My Name is Fish, and it is so good.
Oh.
It's
not.
What?
Where you work. Come get you.
It's just this like kind of retro but dirty like feel, like it's just good. Yeah. Oh, and I did hear Bruno Mars and new what's their new
Silk Smooth or something?
Silk Smooth or Smooth Silk.
Something like that, yeah. I remember.
That's really good. I love it.
I was like, damn, I need a whole album of this, and then they just keep playing this same song.
It was good.
So that was like the last new thing that just kind of like.
But it's that, you know what? But it sounds old.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. When you put this on it, yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, we just want old stuff.
We just want it. Give it to us.
Just give us old shit.
But Bruno does a really good job of bringing back.
Yeah, blending it nicely.
I like
it. He is like extreme. He's also another one that's just, it's tight whenever he puts a production together.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wait, who's this? Lavelle Marie is stuck on Nina Simone.
Oh.
Lavelle Marie. Sorry, I mispronounced your name.
I am sorry.
Oh, I know who that is. That's Donna. Hi, Donna.
Hi.
How are you doing?
Hey, Donna. We still haven't met yet. Well, outside of the internets and Twitter. It's me, Donna from New York. Yeah. Hi. Well, so I think
we did all the nerd stuff we talked about.
Yeah. Like I thought that Falcon and Winter Soldier would have brought us like to the hour, but I'm not.
Well, she's been watching it. Like I have no.
It's amazing.
It's really good. It was my favorite episode was 2 and 4. I didn't really like.
Oh, do you not want to spoil it?
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm not spoiling. I'm just saying the episodes.
Okay.
And then I felt like went too fast.
Yeah, that I felt like the last episode was rushed. It felt like they needed one more episode to kind of. Or
could have made it 5. This made 5 into 6. You know what I mean? Because just jumped into it. It was too fast.
Yeah, but have either of you watched the Amazon original show Invincible?
Amazon Invincible?
Yeah, it's a TV show. It's an animated TV show based on a comic book. It's actually based. It's an animated TV show for adults. Definitely not for children at all. Based on my favorite superhero comic book of all time.
I'm gonna check that out tonight.
Like
Yeah.
I personally feel it is the greatest culmination of like all these years of this stuff that we love and we were trying to make. Like, it was the best superhero comic ever written.
I'm definitely checking that out tonight.
Yeah.
So last night, or no, actually today was the final episode of season 1, and I was just crying like the entire time I was watching it. And then on top of that, like there's been anxiety with it because it's so good. Not a lot of people know about the comic book, and not a lot of people know about the show. So all the fans have been worried, like, are they going to get another? They announced.
Okay, don't worry, just fight for it.
They announced.
That's what happened to Lucifer. I was up all night for Lucifer. I was like, nope, we are winning this, Lucifer fans. We are getting Lucifer.
Oh no, it's already locked in. They announced today.
Oh, good.
So good. It is so good, and I urge everybody to watch it. That's older than like 14 or 15 years old.
Okay, so it's so.
There are a lot of parents that would be like, no, 18 plus, but I personally,
you're approval rating.
I think teenagers should always push the envelope on the stuff that, the maturity.
Right here, ladies and gentlemen.
That's just me. Like younger than that, it's like, but I remember when I was like 14. The thing is, I would never like give that stuff. I wouldn't say, here, Theo, watch all this stuff. But if he finds it, then yeah. Like when we were teenagers, we found the stuff.
Yeah. You did. You did find things that you. Yeah. Look at me. Look what happened.
Look. And now you're making comics.
Yeah, right? Yep.
Look at me.
But one thing that I do enjoy about what you're seeing now more in like even comic books, which it's always been there, but it wasn't so much in your face. And the things that we're seeing in media is that it is kind of bringing a lot of reality, presenting it in a way that is a little bit more digestible.
Yeah.
For some people.
I really like the new advent of like the long form storytelling of like TV now. Like everything doesn't have to be a movie. Like the studios have learned that like, oh, we can take this thing we're going to make a movie and stretch it out to like 10 episodes and give you more character, like more.
Better storytelling,
Yeah.
Because even like say, I know this was like a long time ago, like with even Games of Thrones, for me that switched up things, whereas like, allow people to fall in love with the character and then kill them. You know what I mean? Because even as a writer, like sometimes you're afraid to make your main character even get like a thumbnail or something like that. You know what I mean? You're afraid to hurt them. And it was like, no, we'll let you fall in love with them and you don't know.
Take them away.
You know what I mean?
Well, that's why I love Invincible, because it's a superhero story that has consequences. Like for one thing, you're following all these main characters, and you're like the character development with them, and like finding out how they actually feel about the things that they do is just so good. But you also get something that you don't get from other superhero comics, is like sometimes the good guys lose.
Yeah.
And there's no going back. It's like, oh, the bad guy just won, and that's just it. Now we have to like deal with that and like get on with our lives. And and there's like a whole bunch of tropes, like comic book tropes that he kind of pushes up against and then just like flips on their butt. It's so good. I
I'm
love
definitely gonna check that out.
Yeah,
Because
that
even
sounds good.
I love things when it's like, are the heroes really the heroes?
Yeah, are you good?
You look at like when you have this time to have this storytelling, right?
Yeah.
Where over time you get to know both sides of the people. You're like, but are they really the bad people? Because with Falcon and the Winter Soldier, it was like that. Like once you got to know the Flag Smashers stories, it's like, okay, the way they're going about it is not right, but the way the other side is going about it is not right either. Who is really the bad person and who is really the good person? It
Yeah.
just depends on what side you fall on. You know what I mean?
That's what I love about so many of Marvel's villains is that you get a lot of moments where like you're looking at these villains and you're like,
Was Magneto really that bad? Like,
yeah, it's like I kind of get it. I don't
he's just protecting
agree with
people.
yeah. And it's like I don't agree with the way that you're trying to get your point across, but I get your point.
Yeah,
even like
Killmonger in Black Panther.
Yeah,
it's like
that's definitely
Killmonger was kind of right, but you're kind of killing everybody, dude. So like,
sometimes you gotta do what you gotta. I guess I'm the bad person.
but even like Thanos, like I understood him. You know, like I understood in the overpopulation, you know, famine, people not really living good lives because of all of this. You know,
the problem with Thanos was that he was kind of a moron because if you think about it, he's like the universe is like overextended and overpopulated and all this stuff, and there's not enough resources. And it's like, okay, you just got a magic wishing glove. Instead of killing half the people in the universe, how about you just make enough resources?
Yeah.
Like, fuck you, dude. Like,
he was just focused on his goal. That was his goal, you know.
Quick. That's fast. Boom. I'm the bad person. I'm the bad guy.
So you're okay. So you're the Killmonger and the Thanos.
Yes, because I'm like, oh, this is easy. Half of like wipe everybody out. Oh, boom, bye.
Boom.
Now we got all the McDonald's we want. Like, like.
Like we all have that little. Because even I remember when Daenerys was burning the city.
Oh yeah.
Both her and I were like, I understand. Let it burn. Let it burn.
I get it, girl. I get it. All right. So we have one question for you, and it's a super easy one. Donna would like to know, how does everybody find you on the social media? The social medias, as the kids call it.
Oh, the social. So we do have a Facebook. It's called Kastor Comic. You can find us there. And Instagram as well as Kastor Comic. It's very, we post things.
Kastor with a K.
K.
Kastor.
Yes. Oh, we didn't even tell you the whole thing about Kastor, of why we got Kastor as the name. I know we have like maybe 2 minutes left.
Oh, no, please.
But this is the background.
Give it to us.
This is our our story, our origin story. Castor is actually castor seed oil or castor seed plant is very highly toxic. It could cause convulsion. It could cause death. They tell people, make sure your kids don't eat the seed, the bean, or dogs, because they would die from it. And it's really crazy that ethnic women, we tend to put castor seed oil in our hair to make it grow.
Oh.
And the castor oil, yeah.
The castor oil. And me and Monique is originally from Jamaica. I'm part Jamaican. I'm Jamaican and Korean. So you put it, we were always told that our hair is our power, our strength. And here we are putting this poison oil in our hair to make it grow. it's growing our strength, it's growing our power. So we are able to survive toxic, things and grow from it. And if you think about it, growing up in the Bronx, we're surrounded by, me and Monique both been in shootouts. I've been.
I remember in middle school, we walked around with knives. We were talking about it the other day.
Yeah.
Where in middle school, and where we went to middle school was very nice. It was in the North.
Nice. Yeah.
And they had someone think of what was it, freshman something or another?
Freshman Friday. So
yeah, and we walked around with knives because people were gonna cut, and we were about to cut.
Walk around with
somebody's gonna get cut.
Yeah, because you get your face slashed, and that's how they would join initiation from their gangs. But what the teachers see, we grew up different. Teachers would teach us that you can't carry weapons, so you actually had to use your keys.
Yeah, put them in between.
And whack people. This is what you're learning at 10 years old in the Bronx, and like how to carry your lock on your knuckles to fight somebody, to survive. And we were able to still grow from this craziness and still be like, hey, everybody, it's sunshine.
Hi. Beautiful day.
Star Wars, and she's a Trekkie. I don't know. Like,
I kind of feel like that is. That sounds. I grew up in the suburbs. It was not that rough, but I also feel like that's almost par for the course, though. Growing up Black or brown in America is you, as a young child, grow up learning that there's a whole bunch of people that like hate you for no fucking reason at all, and sometimes people will like aggressively just be aggressive with you, and it's like, I'm 8, and
I just want to swing on my swings.
Yeah. And so
yeah,
you grow up kind of almost compartmentalizing like all this hate that you're like fed.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it's like, okay, but I still love comics and sci-fi and fantasy. So it's like, I'm gonna love this stuff and also at the same time have this insanely thick skin, towards people saying, horrible shit to me,
Oh yeah. Well, it's a screen. It was a screen to block out, if you think about it, going into comic book land, going into Marvel, playing video games, all this stuff kept us away from going. When you're absorbing all of this, when you're seeing, sadly traumatic things like people just laying on the street because there was a shootout and things like that, it stays with you. But, when we go into this other world, it's like, oh, it's almost like, what was that movie where it was called? I think it was like Pan's Labyrinth, if you remember that one.
Oh yeah, like she's going through like this insane, like not just the war that she and her family are living through, but also the sadistic fuck that her mother is with, and like so she's escaping into this like magical world.
Yeah. That's what we, I think, did to keep these things out. It's not that it's not there. It's just more tolerable. It makes it more tolerable. And not to say we had horrible lives. It's just
one of the reasons why I love Star Trek, Uni, because it is a beautiful and diverse future.
But it all is all good, because in the sense of, I felt like it made me at least better at assessing people, better at assessing situations, and bringing this into this little world that I have. And what I love now is that growing up, I didn't hear a lot of kids talking about like comic books and everything. I was very surprised when I heard that they had a Comic-Con in Jamaica. Like, people are like,
Comic-Con in Jamaica now?
They have like their own little comic thing in Jamaica,
where
basically it's like this world that I thought growing up
that we were made fun of.
Yeah, where everybody's embracing it.
Yeah, and that that is one. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to make sure that our shop, like, we're not judgy. Everybody that comes in, like every kid that comes in, they pick up a comic, it's like, oh, that is an awesome comic book. That's a great choice. Because when I remember going to comic shops, and it's like you pick something up that looks interesting to you, and then like people are like, oh, that sucks. Like, what the fuck do you want to read that? And it's like, oh, sorry. Okay, what should I read?
And that's one of the things that we hope to have in our four issues, where you could open up a comic book and you see normal people. You see people from all diverse areas. You see people that look like either you or someone that you know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like where even like say with the symbol of demons, it's like, okay, they're different than us, but we can possibly maybe live together in peace and harmony. Just because they look different doesn't mean that all demons are evil, doesn't mean
all demons are bad in this story. It's just like you know, sometimes people are getting eaten, or you know, those demons have to go away.
So I guess so as Black women and as also an Asian woman, Uni, is there something that you'd like to see kind of carried over into just comics, like comics as a whole, like in general, or is there something that you'd like to see a lot less of in comics? That, you know what I mean?
Like, I feel for me, I would like to see more diversity in a sense of people looking differently. You know, not everyone
not stereotypical. Like everybody, like I think sometimes stereotypes. You know, like Black women, Asian women, things like that. It's kind of like, yeah, but no, you know, in the story, you know, in real life, Monique's a nurse, you know. We were told at one point in time to do some stereotypical things for a Black woman, and it's just like, no, that, you know, we don't need that. You know, we can have jobs and we can have successful, and it can be that way. We don't need to stereotype us constantly, because it keeps us in this same bubble, and that's how everybody's going to view us forever if we don't step outside of this bubble. And that's, you know, that's why we're hoping we can do for other Black women, other Asian, you know,
other women, in general, because it's like we want to show that just because it's about two minorities doesn't mean that it's going to be serious all the time. Doesn't mean that we can't laugh, joke around, have sarcasm in it. We don't have to always, you know, be serious, like how they kind of
like
it doesn't always have to be about our trauma and our plight. Like sometimes this can just be fun.
Because, exactly. Because it's like,
why not?
Yeah, why not show that, you know, we have different dimensions about us, you know, where, you know, you and I, the characters are based on us. You know, if you get to know us, you'd be like, we're the odd couple, but we match. You know what I mean? Where, you know, she's the goofy one, I look serious, but I have my moments.
I've been talking to you for an hour. I wouldn't say that you're the serious one. I wouldn't say either of you is the serious one.
She is, though.
I'm very like in my head, but you know, I have my moments where she would be like, you know what, I love you, and I'm like, why? She's like, because you know all things, but sometimes you say some things that I'm like, who is this woman?
Yeah,
nice.
Believe each other.
I was, and just because I know that you love Star Trek so much, Uni.
My gosh.
I was just listening to this new podcast that I found called All the Agents in Star Trek, and it's this guy. He's literally interviewing all of the Asians that have ever been on any Star Trek show, like the big, you know, the big stars, and even like the people that were just like on it for a second. And he was talking to the actress Rosalind Chow, and she was talking about like in her career when she would get a job, and more than anything else, Asian women always have to face as actresses getting a script and seeing that the character's name is Mei Ling or Mei Li, and she would immediately be like, can we please change that name. Like, and it's like there's so much that like happens because I feel like it's getting better now in general, but I feel like in movies and TV and comics and everything,
They're always quiet,
Well, people just don't want to do the work. It's like they pull it from what they know about Black people or
the stereotype. Yeah.
Like so my family is Haitian, and in Marvel Comics there is a Haitian superhero, Dr. Voodoo, who started.
Oh yeah, Dr. Voodoo. Yeah.
And he started as Brother Voodoo.
Oh wow.
So a few years ago, I was like, I need to have his first appearance. I bought the first 6 issues of him, and I start reading it, and I'm like, oh,
this.
Nobody at Marvel knew had ever met a Haitian person, because this is all clearly Jamaica. like the way that they wrote all the dialogue, like everything about it was. It felt like they were writing like
that's 2 different cultures.
Yeah, and then the only thing that they knew about Haiti was voodoo, and then even that, like none of it is like voodoo at all. It's just like they made the shit up, and I was like, oh, all right, it's a long way to go.
I mean,
it was the 60s.
They did it to Blade too, like I don't think Blade he didn't really have any powers or anything at the very beginning. And then I guess the movie actually just made it more prominent in what he had in his characters, but he really didn't have anything. There was
I think the character pretty much just had he had vampire blood in him, but it wasn't I think the movie really amped up his just badass
and changed him, made him into who he is now.
Yeah, which I cannot wait for that new movie.
I'm excited.
Yeah,
my son thinks that my father is Blade. He
kind of looks like him.
He does look like Wesley Snipes. So I was like, Blade was on, and I was like, look, that's your grandpa. And he was like, our grandpa fights vampires? I was like, yep.
That's awesome.
Right?
Love that.
That was the best thing. He was telling, but then he started telling people that. I don't know.
Like telling random people.
Yeah. I'm not even joking. He was telling my grandpa fights vampires.
I mean, that's pretty awesome.
I guess.
I mean, to him, it probably makes life a little difficult for all of you.
It does, because people don't know what I'm teaching my kid.
Yeah.
But with the Black stereotyping, the Asian stereotyping, we want to nip it in the bud. We don't want that anymore. We have so many young women out there, young girls, and we want to give them something that's not overly sexualized as well.
Yeah.
And they could see themselves in it and be like, oh, so, we really base it off of ourselves. We base it off of no fighting skills, no powers, no nothing, because this is what we all come into this world with. We don't have that, but we can still do it. We could still accomplish what we need to accomplish. And sometimes we're together, me and Monique, and we could accomplish something. And sometimes we have to learn to just rely on ourselves. And that's the big thing. You need to rely on yourself. You might have help on the way, but that help might not always be there. And I think that's one thing growing up in the Bronx. You have to rely on yourself. If you walked in the wrong neighborhood, you need to rely on yourself.
Yeah.
So we want to, make sure people understand that, you have it in yourself to get there. You already survived up until now. You're good. You could do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like that. I think that's the perfect message to go out on.
I did it. Juice. Thank you.
All thanks to Juicy Juice. Are you feeling parched? Grab yourself a Juicy Juice.
Juicy. Thank you, Juicy.
Please pay us money, Juicy Juice.
Thank you, Juicy Juice. You gave us that power.
That's right.
See? And castor oil.
And castor oil. This was awesome. I'm so glad that you guys could do this.
Thank you for
inviting us. Yeah, this was awesome.
Thank you for creating a badass comic book that I can't wait to read.
Yes.
Oh, and for those that don't know, so what I forgot, what's the estimate, the ETA for when it's released?
We're gonna start shipping things out in January of 2022.
Okay, so January 2022, Megbrain Comics, my comic book shop. If you're watching this, I'm guessing you probably know it's a comic book store. We'll have copies of Kastor for you. Also, the other thing is it still possible for people to order copies from you?
Right now we're working on a website, and we'll broadcast that on our social media, and from there we're hoping that we could have people, you know, who unfortunately weren't a part of the Kickstarter could get it.
Yeah, because there might be like a lot of people that like end up hearing about this and are like, oh, I want to be able to support, you know,
because we have people that were like, can I donate still? And I'm like,
where are you? We were having a heart attack over here.
So for anybody watching, go on Instagram, Facebook.
Yeah, it's Kastor Comic with a K.
Just Instagram and Facebook, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So Kastor Comic with a K, Kastor, Kastor Comic, and then you'll be dialed in to Monique and Uni's social needs, as the kids call it.
You're being on a soch. That's what you're saying. Sounds cool.
It does. Thank you both so much for being here. And you know, hopefully I won't miss you at the shop next time. I'm always there on Saturdays and Sundays.
Okay, yeah, no, it was nice. I was just checking up on your stuff, you know.
Well, you know, did you throw a couple quarters in a pinball machine?
I wanted to, because you have the Simpsons pinball. That was like the big thing back then.
Yeah.
That was really cool.
And then Brian just got Joust and Donkey Kong Jr., which are going to be going in soon.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's going to be good. That's going to be good.
All right, y'all. Well,
thank you.
Have a good night, and I'll see you soon. And we'll see all of you soon.
Yes. Have a good one. Good night.
Thank you again.